So hello friends, we will be studying today about the cytokines, and you know that the cytokines are very important chemical factors of the immune system. So as you know that these cytokines are a communication factor that involves the two immune cells to form a proper connection, proper communication between them. So they are made up of glycoprotein, which acts like signaling molecules on the immune cell to trigger some responses. They are membrane bound molecules and they secrete a very wide variety of cells, and they bind with the help of some specific receptors. Okay, when they secrete the cytokines, they bind to specific receptors known as cytokine receptors on the surface of the other cells. They also act as intercellular mediators and produces paracrine or autocrine signaling over short distances between the cells. You know this autocrine and paracrine signaling. This paracrine means the signaling between one cell to the other within single organism, and autocrine means the signaling that is done from the cell to cell itself within the self cell. Once a cytokine binds to the receptor, it generates some internal signal that alters the activity of the cell, and which results the cell to either to divide or to undergo growth and differentiation, or maybe it secretes its own cytokine also. So let's see about some important cytokines. The interleukins, the interferons, chemokines, tumor necrosis factors, colony stimulating factors, these are all cytokines that are present within the immune cells. So let's first see about the interleukins in a much detail. This type of cytokines are produced by a leukocyte and they act on another leukocyte. But there are some cells other than leukocytes which also uses interleukins for some signaling mechanism. And there are total about 35 interleukins present, and they are denoted by the letter IL, alphabet IL, and followed by a number which indicates the sequence in which they were discovered. We know that T cells secrete interleukin 2, right? And this interleukin 2 is responsible for triggering some signals for the growth and activation of T cells. And this interleukin 2 will bind to the interleukin receptor of the same T cell, and this type of signaling is also called as autocrine signals. Okay, autocrine means same cells and paracrine means different cells within the same organism. T cells also secrete interleukin 4, right? Not only interleukin 2 but interleukin 4, and that binds with the cytokine receptors of the B cell, which results in the B cell to form into plasma cell, and ultimately the plasma cell will bear the antibodies, and these antibodies will go and bind to the specific antigens and triggers some response mechanism which will help the body to prevent the pathogen from further interacting. So now let's see what is the tumor necrosis factors. These are also some types of factors that are produced by the mast cells or the macrophages, and also might be T cells. These tumor necrosis factors are attached into the cell membrane and are responsible for regulating the immune response mechanism of the cells. And finally, the cytotoxic T cell will be responsible for apoptosis of these tumor cells, right? Macrophages releases these factors known as tumor necrosis factor alpha, and this tumor necrosis alpha binds to the cytokine receptors of the neutrophils, and this results in the activation of the neutrophils. This is the whole mechanism how the tumor necrosis factors act. Now coming to the interferons, The name interference comes from the ability of these chemicals to interfere with the virus particles. They interfere with the viral replication process. So there are basically two types of interferons. The one is type 1 and the other is type 2. In type 1, the interferons are divided again into interferon alpha and interferon beta. And these are responsible in response to viral infections. Okay. They are responsible to produce response in the viral infections. And for type 2 interferons, there is only one single subclass, that is interferon gamma. And these interferons are responsible for increasing the phagocytosis by macrophages. And let's see what is the role of interferon in regulating this virus. So when the virus infects the cell, the virus induces the infected cells to produce some interferons. These interferons are released by these cells and bind to uninfected cells. Okay. So uninfected cells now produce antiviral proteins, right? So when the virus now comes to infect the uninfected cells, the antiviral proteins of the cell degrades the virus or the viral nucleic acid, okay, and inhibits protein synthesis. Thus, it prevents the spread of viral infections, right? Now, coming to the colony stimulating factors. These factors are very essential for the growth and differentiation of immature leukocytes in the bone marrow. They ensure that the body is supplied with the sufficient white blood cells of all types. Okay. Thus, this supply will determine the immunity of our body. And there are some different types of colony stimulating factors. The first one is monocyte colony stimulating factors. This monocytes colony stimulating factor is produced by the T cells and bone marrow, and they affect the cells of monocytes. The second one is the granulocytes macrophage colony stimulating factor. These are produced by the T cells and also the macrophages, and they help in the growth and differentiation of the dendritic cells. The last one is the granulocytes colony stimulating factor. They are produced by the monocytes and they help in the differentiation and development of neutrophils. So now let's see about the chemokines. See, chemokines act as chemo signaling factors. Okay, they signal the leukocytes to move. Thus, chemokines controls the movement of these leukocytes. Suppose whenever there is an infection, the chemokines secretes at the site of infection and signals the leukocyte present in the blood, such as the neutrophils, to migrate at the site of infection. Thus, neutrophils becomes the phagocytic cells and they will go at the site of infection and they will stop the infection. So this is all about the cytokines that helps the cell, immune cell, to properly communicate between them. So I hope you understood it well. If you understood it well, do subscribe to my channel and also share with your friends.